Hello and welcome to this episode of the Blog Chronicles. I am your host, Matthew Loomis. Here on the Blog Chronicles podcast, we talk with world-renowned bloggers living their dreams and mid-tier bloggers chasing their dreams. What we do is dive deep into their personal story and or talk about their expertise and find out some things they know that can help bloggers like you be more successful. Before we begin, let me point out that the Blog Chronicles is sponsored by buildyourownblog.net, the full-service destination for people who want to start their own WordPress blog and achieve long-term success. Visit buildyourownblog.net to start your new blog today. All right, so who is going to be our guest today? Jeff Bullas' blogging journey began in Australia, where he lives, back in 2008, when he lost his job. As he began using the internet to figure out what to do next, Jeff noticed people's obsessive behavior on Facebook. A few months later, he joined Twitter and noticed the same activity. At the time, there was just 70 million people on Facebook and a mere 5 million people on Twitter. This got Jeff curious. He wondered why this was happening and what did this all mean. The main thing Jeff discovered that launched him into his successful blogging career was actually the rise of social media. He could see how powerful social media was and would continue to rise. This was going to be a game changer, he realized. Social media platforms were democratizing publishing, marketing, and business. He had an epiphany in 2008 that we all could have a global voice and we no longer needed permission to publish or pay for attention. That is what got Jeff Bullas excited about starting a blog, which he did in 2009. He started creating content, building a community, and sparking conversations about social media. This led to speaking gigs for Jeff around the world, and he's had an incredible career so far. Listen to this. In 2017, he was listed by Forbes as one of the top 20 influencers of CMOs. In 2016, he was ranked by Apollo Research in the top 20 influencers of digital marketers in the USA. In 2016, he was number one global digital marketing influencer by Opinions, and that's spelled with APP, Opinions. He was listed as the number one content marketing influencer from 6 million plus daily web updates in 2015. In 2016 and 2015, by Analytica, he was listed as the number one content marketing influencer. He was the world's number one business blogger in 2015. In 2015, he was ranked number 7 on the top 100 social media influencers list. Inc.com listed him in the top 20 digital marketing experts to follow on Twitter back in 2015. And Forbes in 2014 ranked him number 8 in the world's top 40 social marketing talent. The mission of Jeff's successful online business is to inspire and educate people on how to win at business and in life in a digital world. I'm super excited to have Jeff on the Blog Chronicles today. I think you'll really enjoy listening to Jeff's story along with his nuggets of blogging wisdom that drop off of him every time he talks. Jeff knows so much that you will learn something new every time you listen to him. So kick back with me as we get our Blog Chronicle on with world-renowned blogger Jeff Bullas. Hello, Jeff. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matthew. It's great to be here and just joining you from sunny Sydney. It's early morning here.
Ah, yes. Happy Thursday to you, even though it's Wednesday here.
Yeah, we live in the future. We just don't tell the Americans.
Right. You guys are always ahead of us, I'm telling you.
That's right.
Jeffrey, it's so great to talk to you and have you on the Blog Chronicles today. You have quite a success story that I want to get into. First of all, you started blogging back in 2009, and I was wondering if you could tell us your story a little bit. What was going on back then, and why did you start blogging, and how did you get started?
Yeah, it was a very interesting time. I was just between jobs. That's code for unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it had been I had actually had gone through a divorce. I'd lost the business. I was hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and I had plenty of time on my hands. So I started reading and researching, and then sort of a lady I was going with at the time invited me to get onto Facebook, and I just sort of noticed people's behaviour on Facebook, and then I leapt onto Twitter. I noticed the same obsession with social media.
Mm-hmm.
And when something's going on here, and that really intrigued me. So being a sort of a curious sort of guy, I said, okay, I better check this out further. So I read a book by Tim Ferriss called The 4-Hour Workweek, and that sort of tweaked my interest in maybe building a business online.
Mm-hmm.
And that freedom was pretty exciting. And a book by not by Tim Ferriss, by David Meerman Scott, The New Rules of Marketing PR. It talked about the power of content to attract an audience and build a business online. I went, okay, that sounds really good, because I was used to outbound calling and building businesses through cold calling and networks where you turned up to networking events. And I went, okay, that sounds doable. That sounds like something that I think could work. And then the final little trigger for me that made me start was a blog post by HubSpot that said you have an inkling of what you want to write about or start a business on, start a blog. So the sort of passion project was my curiosity around social media. So I started a blog about social media in 2009, and it was just a passion project, no grand plan, no business plan written, and we just started creating content and building distribution for the blog. And that's how it all really started. It's this passion project that escaped the lab, really.
Interesting. Yeah. So because of maybe your sales and marketing background, why did you choose social media? It must have intrigued you from a potential business standpoint, or why do you think you were so curious about it?
Well, I've been involved in the tech industry, and also my first career was teaching. So social media ticked a couple of boxes because this intersection of humanity and technology, which humanized the web, sort of opened up the opportunities to reach a global audience. So it democratized publishing. In other words, you could just publish, whether it was on Facebook or a blog or on Twitter. And also, it democratized marketing. You no longer had to, beg or pay for, one of the media moguls to actually advertise. Whether it was writing an article for a magazine or a newspaper, or get permission from journalists. Social web gave you that power to do it on your own if you chose to. And I went, wow, here we have the ability to publish without paying for it, the ability to actually grow distribution without paying for it, this democratization of both publishing and marketing, to me, and also my observation of the behavior that social media enhanced, which was, people are obsessed with social media. They still are today. Nothing's really changed. Grown up a lot, but it was that intersection that really, really fascinated me, and I believe there was some real power behind it. And here we are 9 years later, 8-9 years later, and that inkling of a possibility had really has eventuated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just curious, did you start with WordPress?
Yes, I started with a WordPress blog, and we still have the blog on WordPress today.
Yeah, I knew you did now. I was just curious about your very first blog.
Well, a lot of people start on different platforms, but I did start on WordPress from day one. Some people start on things like Blogger or Tumblr, but one of the things I certainly would encourage anyone is to get as much control over their publishing and marketing as they possibly can. Because we've seen the likes of MySpace and basically putting all their eggs on one social network or someone else's platform. Yeah. So owning your own domain and owning your own platform, I think, is absolutely vital if you want to build a long-term digital asset.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Do you remember a few years ago people were advocating using Google Plus to blog?
Oh yeah, people said I'm giving up my blog and I'm going to Google Plus, and I'm going, wow, you guys are not only brave, you're stupid.
Yeah.
So it just, just use a bit of common sense. If you're giving all your IP to a platform, and Google might pull the pin on Google Plus eventually. Who knows? Because yes, it's out there, but who's actually using it?
Yeah, I know. Right. It's already lost a ton of its audience. Jeffrey, did you, going back to those days when you started out, did you consider yourself a good writer back then?
Not at all. My blog posts were, I go back to them occasionally to remind myself how far I've come. So what I did do was I started and put myself out there, and I think that's really, really important. And when I go back, I think they were poorly structured. I could spell, that was fine. But the structure, the rhythm, the whole writing was very, very poor. So I've grown a lot since then, and by reading great books by Stephen King's book on writing, which is just fabulous. Just watching other writers and just seeing how they did it, and just learned by doing and observing and seeing how other people became good writers and what they were doing.
So at what point did you realize that your blog experiment was going to work as a business?
It sort of, the first signs of it was when I started getting emails asking me to speak in different countries around the world. The first one was New Zealand, the second one was Italy, and someone said, not only will we pay you to speak, we'll fly you to our country and we'll pay you. And I went, wow.
Yeah, wow.
Something's going on. So
yeah,
and that to me was the first inkling of that this passion project was growing up. And I had a full-time job by then. I was working for a digital agency, and as I spoke more and more, I started taking leave without pay, and I sort of ended up getting myself slowly fired from that job because I was so distracted by my blog and the business opportunities that were coming out of that. So my side hustle project led to a serious business, and I ended up actually very amicably losing my job.
Oh, wow. Okay. But you were not really that sad about it.
No, it was actually perfect. It was like this slow, like they'd cut me back to 4 days, then it was to 3 days, and then it was to 2 days, and eventually I was contracting back to them. And then, it was about 3 years ago. So it was quite I suppose, a long process in a way, but it suited me, and it was, very amicable, and I was very happy about it.
Sounds like that's the way to do it. And I know that's the way that a lot of people listening to this right now would like to do it for themselves. Jeff, your blog grew pretty quickly. I mean, I think it took, like, from what I read, 9 months to 2 years.
Yeah, it was about 9 months, 12 months. I was starting to get some decent traffic. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, when I started, I was only getting like 10 viewers a week or a day. But I had to grind it out. I realized that I needed to build distribution for my content to get my blog posts out there. And Twitter was my first, and still is, a big part of getting my content in front of people on their computer screens and on their mobiles to read. So, a lot of people don't do the second part of what's important. Blogging could be called content marketing, and it's 2 words, content and marketing.
Right.
You really need to work on getting your content out, and that's really requires a bit of hustling. And Twitter is where I started. But as I grew my Twitter distribution, as I tweeted my blog posts, and as I built the network on Twitter, then the traffic started to increase, and then got discovered, started earning authority with search engines like Google, and getting organic search engine traffic. So, really important to actually understand that it's not just about writing, it's about marketing as well.
So promotion was sounds like obviously was a key to your growth. I mean, what ratio would you say you had as far as time spent creating a post versus the promotion of the post? Would you spend more time promoting it?
No, I wouldn't. Yeah, hard to put a number on it or a ratio. But you could say, so I wasn't, content back then was people were happy with a 300 or 400, 500 word blog post, whereas today it's more like 1,000 to 2,000 words. It takes a bit longer and the standard's higher. It's more competition. But, 20, 30% of your time devoted to actually getting your content out there, I think would be something worth aspiring to. So once you've built it, then it's a bit easier because you just put it out there. But it requires a lot of hustle, and that can take quite a bit of time. So, for some people, it might be 50% of their time spent on the marketing component of their blog. There's no right or wrong in this, but you really do need to make sure that you're getting your content out there and discovered.
So aside from the marketing aspect of your blog and promotion, are there any other important keys that you had to grow your audience back then?
Go multi-channel. So Twitter's not the only. I experimented with platforms like Pinterest and Instagram and Google Plus, and we also built an email list, which gave me a lot of control, or more control over getting my content out by being able to send an email out to my list. Email gives you more control, but again, the algorithms are starting to get in the way of even email, as platforms like Gmail start putting up tabs that drives traffic into promotions or social tabs or even trash. So the algorithms that restrict organic reach, whether it's a search engine or whether it's Facebook's newsfeed, is now extending even into email. So the journey is, in terms of promotion, you certainly need to be pushing your content out into a variety of channels and see what works and what doesn't. It's going to vary for some. If you're in the fashion, photography, Pinterest could be really good, as well as Instagram. Instagram, the challenge there is that the links within the actual posts are not clickable. There's only one clickable link on Instagram, which is your profile link. Then I've experimented with distributing content and building audiences on places like Medium, and one we've been working on, which is starting to grow more and more, is Flipboard. So I've created magazines where I post and flip all my content from the blog into a personal magazine on Flipboard, and that can drive up to 20% of my traffic some days, and different topics resonate with the Flipboard audience. So especially sort of like personal growth development, personal success stories, they work well. So you got to keep experimenting, because the digital landscape is changing so quickly. And it will keep changing. So so the journey becomes one of building it and then optimizing it. So that's why you've got to be sort of quietly paranoid. Because I think there's even a book called Only the Paranoid Survive. So the reality is that digital landscape is just constantly evolving and changing quickly and rapidly. So understand that you've got to experiment with different types of ways of getting your content out.
Flipboard, I'm going to check it out, and I will have a link to that in the show notes. Jeffrey, let's move along to outsourcing. I'm glad you mentioned Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek. You began as a single blogger, a solopreneur, and I'm assuming you don't do it all yourself these days. How long was it before you grew big enough to where you said, I need some help here, I don't have time to do everything?
I sort of struck out on my own after finishing up my career and working for someone else. I still was doing a fair bit of on my own, but I was starting to, because I had distribution, I started to get people that wanted to write for me for free, such as guest bloggers. So about 3 years ago, I started encouraging people and accepting guest posts. And because once you've built distribution, people want to write for you because you will give them attention. So it's an exchange of value.
Mm-hmm.
So so initially started there. Then I appointed an editor to manage all that because that became too big and because we imposed a certain standard on the quality of writing and the type of articles and the images that need to be part of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Set some writing and post standards. So using an editor became really, really important. So,
mm-hmm.
and their roles expanded over the time. So, yeah, you've got to work out how you can scale it because solopreneur is great, but then you've got to work out how can I scale this, and then you can keep asking how can I scale it, because you don't want to be doing it all yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to never sleep, and it's going to be hard to grow the business.
Right. Would you say your experience has been overall positive with outsourcing?
Oh, very much so. I've just put on board a new marketing person, which is great. Allows me to really work on some of the projects that have been neglected. Now we've got copywriters that work for the team. We've got marketing automation person as well. So the team just keeps growing. Designers, we get specialists in for different projects, specialist writers. So the virtual team is growing, which means that I don't have to be in one location for it to be working. So I've worked hard at designing a business that works for my life rather than the other way around. And it depends on what sort of business you want. Some people want to make it huge and complicated. Some people want to keep it simple. Everyone has different, requirements on what they want from a business. But I think you certainly want to design a business that works for your life, and that's comes down to my mission, which is to help people win at business and life in a digital world. And I think, business is about humans. It's about the human story. In other words, most businesses are built on a story.
Right.
Person's experience. So I think, and that's the challenge as we continue to grow, is to continue to be true to the story that and what the blog has become for me, or what it was. So I think it's important that the business stays true to you.
Do you see your team growing any larger, or are you about at a perfect spot for yourself?
At the moment, the team, we're still growing the team, but we put in place, whether it's a contractor or a virtual employee, if you like, that does certain projects, and as certain areas evolve, then we will beef it up. So we'll continue to grow, but I'm not all about growth for growth's sake. It's about continuing to grow a business that works for me, and and also gives me time to do things that I still love to do, such as write. So my goal is to still write a blog post a week, and also in the background be writing books. So the reality is that I love the writing. In fact, the research, the curation is a place where you learn so much, and that's, I think, if you're a publisher or a writer, that is what the soul of your business would be about. It doesn't mean you don't divest or allocate tasks, but it means that I think part of my journey now is becoming a better digital entrepreneur. So and that's the challenge for me now, is learning more entrepreneurial skills. And I've had businesses before. So I don't want to grow up too fast. I don't want to make it so that you will run out of working capital.
Yeah.
People have just grown really quickly, going, hang on, where's the money to pay for all this? And consequently, businesses have imploded. And so you've got to really be, this business is very organic. And I'm comfortable with it at the moment, but there's always the challenge of growing it and reaching more people, because at the end of the day, most of us want to leave a legacy. We want to make a difference. And the bigger the difference, it's just great to see you making a difference in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before we get to your writing, one more quick question about outsourcing. I'm just curious: is your team all pretty much remote, or are there any local people there with you?
I have accountants in the office. I have I have my marketing is in the office, but not all the time. So it's a combination of in the office and also a virtual team. So, and there's a lot of collaboration tools that you can use now. So, but you do need the face-to-face. I do like that. I actually have a home office where I spend about 50% of my time, and then I actually have an office where some of the team works from time to time. So, and it's really good because I can actually get some quiet space for writing and thinking and planning in the home office, and then I can pop into the other office and do teamwork. So it's, yeah, pretty comfortable though.
Sounds like it. It sounds like it's your business, your way.
Yeah, and I think in this digital world we live now, we have the tools and technologies to be able to do that. And I think, you know, it's not business as usual, where right. You know, it's command and control, and everyone had to turn up from 9 to 5, and everyone got on the train or turned up on public transport or fought the traffic. So it's a combination of face-to-face and, you know, doing Skype calls is basically like a virtual coffee shop meeting or a virtual meeting. I spend maybe more time on Skype than I do on telephones. So it's great because, you know, high definition face-to-face calls on Skype is just fabulous. Even though the technology's been around a long time, I still go, wow, this is such cool technology. Because you can have conversations with people all around the world, from Europe to the USA, from Los Angeles to New York. And it's just so cool. And if you look back 20 years ago, you couldn't do this.
No.
So, yeah, I constantly go, wow, this is pretty cool. I never take it for granted.
Yeah, it's like the Jetsons now. And like you said, 20 years ago, we still didn't have any real concept of what we're doing now.
Yeah.
It's really amazing.
It is. And but the thing is, a lot of us are brought up in that world where it was turning up at the office and doing things a certain way. And you've got to keep reminding yourself that it doesn't have to be done the old ways, and think, okay, we can do it this way instead because the tools allow it to be done that way.
That's a good point. Great point, especially for, you know, people around 30, 35 and older. Yeah, excellent point. Let's get into your writing process now. I was wondering if you could share with us your typical process of creating a blog post from start to finish. First, how do you come up with new ideas?
It's actually quite simple. There's a great quote by Stephen King, says, if you want to write a lot, you need to read a lot. There is no other way. So the inspiration for writing and ideas doesn't come from a vacuum. You need to be feeding the beast, feed the inspiration. And that comes from reading. That's it. The more you read, the more ideas you get. Jot them down, stop the car, grab your notebook, grab your phone, put in your notes, send yourself an email, whatever it is. Just grab the idea before it disappears. Then you might have a bunch of ideas, and then you might find that you say, okay, here's 5 good ideas I was thinking about writing about. You're going, I'll write about that one, and you'll sit down and strap yourself in and start doing the work. And typically I will start quite early in the morning because that's my space. Everyone else is sleeping, but it's my time. So that's really important. I think you need a time block, and that's really, really important. So that's how I get the ideas from doing a lot of reading.
So when Jeff Bullas gets an idea, do you use digital or analog tools to write, jot down your ideas so you'll remember them? What do you do?
Typically more digital now, but I still will write ideas down. So because I've got my phone handy, I don't need a pen. I can put it straight into my iPhone notes app. Done. And then if I really want to, then I can just send myself an email. So I'm saying, okay, did I send myself anything? Search that, put it in a folder. So, but still I do write it. I've got a daily paper diary that I'll maybe write ideas down as well. I used, Post-it pads. So around my desk, I'll just stick them and put them in front of me. So it's a combination, but it's more digital than analog today.
Jeff, what has been your biggest challenge these past 8 years to growing your digital business?
I think the biggest challenge is moving it from a passion project to a business, and commercializing your ideas, and especially in a landscape that is just didn't exist really. Bloggers didn't exist 20 years ago or 15 years ago, or bloggers that made money.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe wrote, but they actually didn't make money as a blogger.
Mm-hmm.
So the landscape is sort of slowly becoming clearer, and there's certain business models that work, but you've really got to work out, okay, how can I turn this into a business that scales rather than just me being a writer and opportunities turn up at random. So that's been the biggest challenge. And one of the biggest aha moments for me was I was doing what I call the 3 success pillars for a blogger. Number 1, I was creating great content. Number 2, I was doing good marketing, so my content was getting attention. But the 3rd pillar was I wasn't converting efficiently that content, whether it's an ebook or a online course, into leads and sales. So number 1, you do need to create content which actually builds trust and credibility, and that engages people. Number 2, you need to get traffic for the content. But if you miss the 3rd pillar, converting that trust and traffic into leads and sales, then the rest is just noise and creativity, which is lovely. There's nothing wrong with that. You can, do that as just a passion project. But the last piece, actually learning the art of converting leads into sales online, I think that's the biggest challenge. It's the biggest challenge for most people in the blogosphere.
Yeah, I agree. We could probably spend an entire show on that topic. But I'm wondering if you could just give us one little tip on that. How do you convert your passion into profit?
I think the easiest place, if you're a writer and you're a blogger, and typically a lot of bloggers are writers, some are video bloggers, and so I think some of the easiest places to start is through selling ebooks, and that's it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get rich doing that, but it could certainly be a side hustle project that you could do while you have a full-time job. Give away some simple, cheat sheets as PDFs, build your email list, and then make an offer and put your book out there and sell it, whether it's on Amazon or whether it's from your own site. And a lot of people could easily earn, $1,000 a month from doing that, which would pay for a fabulous holiday every year. And for some people, that would be enough as a business opportunity. Yeah. So I believe that the ebook is still one of the easiest things to sell. And then you can take and build that out and become, make it a little bit more complicated and take that book and turn it into an online course. So that's maybe the next step. And then things like mastery and coaching, which you can do at scale. There's different ways of doing that. Monthly subscription mastery products. In other words, people want to join up and get coached or have content that really helps them take their business or their blog to the next level. So, but I think one of the easiest places to start is with an ebook. It could be a $9.97 ebook. And yeah, I think once you've understood the principles of converting leads into sales, an ebook's a pretty easy place to start.
That sounds like a great idea and a lot more fun than a second job.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and that's the reality too, is that when you're doing this, you're actually building a digital asset that's got, and especially as you continue to persist with it, and this is a marathon, not a sprint, is that here's the thing. If you've got a job and you poured your heart into it, you build a career, you actually build up some real credibility within it, skills, a lot of intellectual property, fabulous. Okay, you lose your job. What happens to your income? Zero. So working for someone else is great, and a lot of people love working and need that sort of security, if you want to call it that. But by building something that is yours, that you can actually monetize, which you can, put some structure to your IP, reveal your passion and skills to the world. And we live in a knowledge economy now. Mm-hmm. is that if you build that up, the blog becomes an asset, or your website becomes an asset that reveals, you know, your intellectual property, your creativity, your knowledge. And then if you structure it into products such as ebooks and online courses, is that then is yours. So you're not really can't get fired from that. So the reality is that you can turn digital assets into ongoing revenue streams that doesn't stop when you lose your job. And I think that is such a cool place to live, because that is yours. And you are not at the mercy of an employer that might go, sorry, we're closing the business. It's happened to me before. I was earning a lot of money, suddenly the business failed. What happened to my income? Went back to zero. So real security comes from, I believe, actually building your own digital assets, or assets that reveal your story and your skills and creativity to the world. And that is just a much better place to be.
Well said. So let's suppose somebody is thinking about starting out part-time with blogging or full-time, and they have, you know, these dreams of generating incomes, you know, enough income to be able to live off of that income. I've heard you say that blogging is not for everyone, Jeff. So I was wondering if you could describe the type of person that shouldn't start a blog.
Someone that can't commit to doing something on a consistent and persistent basis. So if you haven't got the self-discipline to actually time block and actually sit down and do the work to create the content, whether it's visual content with images or videos or write. Now, what I sort of suppose is, blog's a term that sort of frightens people off because it's seen as a bit of a tech geeky thing. Well, it really isn't. It's just, you're really actually just creating a simple website where you actually reveal you and your ideas. So it's not a geeky thing. So you're really building an online digital asset built around your content and ideas. So if you're not a writer, well, you know, do videos. If you're not, can't do that, use images. A lot of people make good money out of sharing their images on Instagram. Like there's Instagram influencers. How that pans out over the next decade is going to be interesting to see what the role of Instagram influencers will be and whether it continues. But there's a lot of ways to actually create content. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a writer. Some people say, well, I'm not a writer, and going, well, maybe you are, you just haven't done enough. Yeah, I think you just got to look at what your skill and what you love doing. It certainly has to be driven from, you know, as a passion project. Because if it's not a passion, then it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard for you actually to allocate time, because you're going, oh, I can't be bothered. I'd rather watch TV. So, but you need to dedicate, strap yourself in and do the work, and it needs to be work that you love doing.
So on the flip side, what type of person should start a blog? It sounds like passion is a big factor.
I think if you haven't discovered your passion, go looking for it. I think that's your job in life, is discover what your passionate purpose is. A lot of people go to their graves with their song unsung, and not because I don't think they've got no ability. I think it's because they maybe haven't put enough focus on finding it. And guess I really didn't, you know, I had inklings of what I loved doing, and I certainly was passionate about different things, from running to reading, but I didn't discover my passionate purpose until I was over 50. A lot of people say I'm too old, and I'm going, well, I don't agree with you. So the reality is that discovering your passionate purpose can be discovered at any age. And that is your mission in life, is to discover what that is. And then when you've got it, to embrace it and make it happen. But everyone's got different levels of, you know, of drive, and that's the other thing. And that's what you've got to, some people are happy with the job, retire at 65, taking the gold watch, putting on the slippers and slowly fading into obscurity, but that's fine. We all have choices.
That's awesome. I did not know that, Jeff. You found your purpose in life after 50. Wow. That's pretty incredible.
So I'm a living example of how dinosaurs can reinvent themselves. There you go.
Oh, well. I wouldn't call you that. Jeff, what books have you written that a blogger should consider reading? I know you're an author too.
I wrote a book, Blogging the Smart Way, and that's been out there for a while now. And I've written a bunch of other ebooks, such as 101 Plus Traffic Tips. Mm-hmm. Written some ones on how to drive traffic with Twitter, which is another book. And middle of writing another book, which we are going to publish this year, but it'll be self-published, and we'll be launching a whole range of products around that as well. So books quite often don't have to be necessarily a revenue stream. They can just be the pillar content that positions you as an expert within your industry. Mm-hmm. And and it's up to you. Some people make a lot of good money out of books. I think Mark Schaefer makes a really good revenue stream out of book writing. He self-publishes now. You don't have to wait for a publisher to discover you. But yeah, so Blogging the Smart Way has been my key book, and that positioned me early on. And then we'll put out a range of free ebooks since then. And blogging will end up being a range of different revenue streams. So that's the other thing you got to understand, is that it's not necessarily just one type of revenue. So
right.
Many bloggers, I think, Darren Rouse from Pro Blogger, I think he wrote a blog post a couple of years ago which indicated that he had, I think, something like 10 to 12 revenue streams from different things he does, from ebooks through to speaking through to affiliate marketing. And so there are a lot of ways to make money as a blogger, and you'll end up maybe doing a few primary ones. Then you've got to work out where you want to play. That's where you design a business for your life and your passionate purpose and skill sets.
Absolutely. So in the show notes, there are links to Jeff's books and his Amazon author page. Jeff, it's time for the final question. I want to know, how has blogging changed your life?
It's turned my life from, I suppose, chasing money to actually doing what I love every day. It doesn't mean I do everything. This stuff I still don't like doing, like accounting. I've got to do some of that stuff. Not that I do accounting, but the financial stuff. For me, I wrote a blog post recently, the one habit that transformed my life, and just the discipline and commitment to sitting down every day and writing, curating and researching, and then publishing content and then sharing it. It's just been such a place for personal growth, because as you curate information, then you put it into a blog post where you've got to structure it, you get real clarity about the industry you're in, and also what you love doing and what's interesting and fascinating. So the art of creation, and then the discipline of actually putting that and distilling it into some clarity is the publishing part. And then from that comes the growth, because as you do that, you get feedback in real time from the universe as you share it on the social web. So it's really a three-step process. Number one, create. Number two, publish that creation. There's a lot of people that create but don't actually share it with the world. And I think that's where the real growth happens, because you get this feedback. The world talks back to you. And the social web is that world. It gives you global reach. You didn't have that before. You actually had to physically go out and show your book to people. You had to put it in a publisher's hand to get distribution. So publishing and sharing it with the world is where the magic happens. And then as you continue to do that, you continue to get more clarity about, I suppose, the passion focus that you're dealing with. And for me, the personal growth as coming those two things. Number one, creating. Number two, publishing. And, I think it's really important to understand that you don't grow from hiding your creation. You only grow by putting your creation out to the world. And that's really where personal growth gets really, really exciting, because you're making yourself vulnerable. And people are going to identify with vulnerability. And actually, by being vulnerable, you become powerful. because you become human and you can touch people's hearts and minds. And that's the thing you need to understand, is that number one, create. Number two, publish and share it with the world. And number three, you are going to get incredible personal growth as you continue to do that.
Man, that's good stuff right there. That's honestly, that's probably the best answer I've heard for that question. Jeff's article, The One Habit That Changed My Life, you can find a link to that in the show notes as well. Jeff, it's been great talking with you. Where can people connect with you online?
You can find me on my blog, jeffbullas.com. Then there's a contact page there if you want to drop me a line via email. You can find me on Twitter, where I have my streaming consciousness is revealed every 15 minutes. You can contact me there. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty well everywhere. So easy to find. Just Google Jeff Bullas and you can find me.
Thank you, Jeff, for coming on the Blog Chronicles today. It's been a real pleasure.
It's been a privilege, and thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Blog Chronicles. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe on YouTube or iTunes and leave a rating or review to help other bloggers find us. If you want to chat, look me up on Twitter @MattLoomis. Who is going to be featured on the next Blog Chronicles? Next time, we're going to chronicle a mommy blogger who is a little different than the typical mommy blogger, and she started her blog at buildyourownblog.net and has been pursuing her dreams, taking action, and growing her audience. She's an up-and-coming blogger whose story you don't want to miss. So I'll see you next time on the Blog Chronicles.